Good morning. Welcome to our session, all of you. Today we are going to discuss the most probable questions from the chapter Organism and Populations. Okay. In this chapter, which is one of the longest or the biggest chapters in our second year topics, we are discussing the most important points, all important points, plus the questions that were asked for Neet examinations on the previous years. We are all discussing all such questions. Okay, we go to the question directly. Okay, evolutionary biologists believe that, see, mammals are most successful, one of the most successful organisms. And what is the main reason? The main reason is that they are all warm-blooded. They are having a constant and steady internal conditions maintained. They are all having homeostasis. So, they maintain always their internal conditions stable with higher body temperature, warm-blooded nature. So what is the advantage of having a higher temperature, body temperature? Temperature is directly influencing the metabolism. So higher the temperature, higher will be their metabolism. So their metabolism will be always at the maximum, optimum level. Whether they are living in cold area, whether they are living in very hot area, their metabolism will be always remaining stable, constant, steady. That ability to maintain a constant body temperature. Okay, that is the main reason why they are all successful, most successful. Okay, so evolutionary biology says that during evolution, few organisms became successful, and those which are all capable of maintaining a constant steady temperature are at the apex of evolution. Okay, that's the recent technology they have developed through millions of years of evolution, so that they are all having a constant steady internal condition, including temperature, which is warmer than the surrounding, so that their metabolism is at the maximum optimal always. That is the physiological advantage they are having over cold-blooded animals. The relation for a population that grows exponentially. What is exponential growth? See, we are having two basic growth patterns. If a population is growing in a J-shape curve pattern, it is exponentially or geometrical growth pattern when conditions are all favorable. There is no hindrance. The population are given always all optimal conditions. They are all growing in this way. Okay. Then dn by dt, the rate at which the change in population occur is per capita birth rate minus per capita death rate. That is called R value. We call it as biotic potential, inherent ability of an organism in changing the population size. That is what is called R value. That R value into total number. So, what is my contribution? Contribution of each individual into or multiplied by total number. That is the rate at which population will be changing. So, that is correct. B minus D, per capita birth rate minus small b per capita, capital B natality. That is the difference. Okay. Similarly, small d per capita death rate, capital D mortality. So, small b minus small d is R. R value is intrinsic rate of natural increase, which is simply called as biotic potential. And NP, if population is growing at this rate, what is the population after a given time? That is NT, population or density at a given time will be N0, original population, into e to the power of RT. Okay. Nt is equal to Rn into k minus n by k. This is applicable to the logistic curve growth populations which are all growing in this fashion, which is more realistic one. Bell's per logistic curve. So you are having two types of growth. This growth J curve. This is S shape, sigmoid curve. And natural population will be having sigmoid curve. Why population is growing like that? After some time, they will be coming to a stable condition because the resources are limited. Today or tomorrow, resources become limiting. And in nature, resources are not always a plenty. They become limiting. So, after a time, when the resource become limiting, they will be stabilizing. The population will not be growing always in a exponential form, but will be becoming stable. They reach a stable condition, which is called carrying capacity. And K is carrying capacity, and the ratio K minus N by K is environmental resistance. You are having two opposing forces. One force is trying to increase the population, that is called R value, and the other one is operating in a reverse or in opposite direction, which is called the environmental resistance. Okay, that environmental resistance and biotic potential will be the two opposing forces that influence the population growth. When these two become equal, then it becomes stable. That condition is called asymptote or carrying capacity. The population has reached the maximum. Okay, so correct equation for a population that grows exponentially, it is J curve. Okay, all the first three are correct, and the fourth one is only for logistic growth. Okay, refer the diagram. When you are plotting the relation between the internal environment with the external environment, sometimes some organisms are having an ability to maintain the constancy, whatever may be the external level of a factor. Their internal environment is always remaining same. They are all constant. They are all regulators. They keep their internal environment stable. They are regulators. Whereas others are not having that ability. Majority of the animals and plants are having no such ability. They simply change to the changes in the surrounding. They are called conformers. They cannot maintain a constant and steady internal environment. Only birds and mammals are having that ability to control all the important factors, like temperature also constant, regardless of the changes in the external environment. Okay. Vertebrates are having an ability to maintain water salt level stable despite changes in the surrounding changes. They are having ability to regulate water and salt level, osmoregulation. Okay, so they are all osmoregulators, whereas mixine is the only vertebrate which is an osmoconformer, and C is for partial regulators who can adjust their body condition slightly to certain small changes, and they cannot always keep their internal condition stable according to the changes or despite the changes in the surrounding. They will be capable of making some slight adjustments. They are only partially regulating when the external environment is changing. Very great changes are brought in the surroundings. When the surrounding or background levels are changing abruptly, suddenly larger changes are brought about, they cannot adjust in their body condition. So they simply conform. Okay, so conformer A, 99% of animals and nearly all plants are corresponding to line A, that is conformers, correct? They cannot maintain. Success of mammals, we have discussed the first question, is largely due to their ability to maintain a constant body temperature, and they correspond to line B, again correct. Shrews and hummingbirds, What are shrews and hummingbirds? Shrews are mammals, hummingbirds are mammals. Both of them are warm-blooded, belong to the line A. No, they belong to the line B. So, only 1 and 2 are correct. 3 is wrong. Shrew and hummingbirds, they are small sized. What is the reference to our text? They cannot be found in polar areas. Why? In polar areas, it is extreme cold and most of their heat from the body, they are warm-blooded, body heat is higher, they will be lost by radiation. So what they eat as food will be converted into energy that is lost as heat. So most of their energy will be lost as heat. So they cannot live in such conditions. That is why small-sized birds and small-sized mammals like shrews and hummingbirds are not present there. That is why the size of birds and mammals living in polar areas are larger. Okay, that is the rule called the Bergman's rule. They will be having larger size, smaller will be the surface area volume ratio. So proportionately, small amount of heat will be lost if their body size is larger. That is why birds and mammals of polar areas are larger in size. Clear? Considering the benefit of a constant internal environment. See, why birds and mammals are maintaining a constant steady internal environment? They will be always having most optimal, ideal internal conditions so that their metabolism will be maximum optimum. That is the physiological advantage that they are all having. So, birds and mammals are having a constant internal environment, but they have to spend a lot of energy for maintaining that constant internal environment, which is energetically very expensive. So they should have sophisticated mechanisms, sophisticated machinery within their body to maintain a constant and steady environment despite changes in the surrounding. And they should be energetically expensive. They have to spend a lot of energy also. Most of the plants and animals are not at all capable of maintaining a constant condition because it is energetically very expensive and they don't have such a advanced technology in their body. That is why, though maintenance of a constant temperature is highly advantageous, most animals and all plants are not capable of doing it. Regulation is genetically expensive and for many organisms, particularly small animals. Invertebrates, lower vertebrates are not capable of maintaining that constancy because it requires a lot of energy waste. They have to spend a lot of energy for maintaining that constancy of their internal environment. But of course, they will be getting the advantage. What is the advantage they are all getting? Always their metabolism will be at the maximum optimal level. But for that, they have to spend a lot of energy, which most of the animals and all plants are not capable of. That is why they are all not capable of having a constant internal condition. Is that point clear? Non-obligatory beneficial relationship that develops when two different organisms get associated. See, non-obligatory, meaning they need not remain in that association. It is not a must. They can have an independent life. So, for example, we are having a crow and a cattle. When a crow is sitting on the back of a cattle when it is grazing, crow is getting the ticks, the insects, the pests that are all on the surface. So crow is getting the food. And cattle is also getting the benefit. It is getting rid of its ectoparasites. So both of them are beneficial. But that benefit will be obtained only when they are all remaining in association. They can live independently also. A crow need not depend on a cattle or a cattle need not depend on the crow. Similarly, bird and crocodile. Bird will be eating on the flesh between the teeth of a crocodile. So crocodile is getting a benefit of cleaning its teeth. Bird is getting the benefit of getting food. This type of temporary association, and when they come in association, both of them are, it is mutualism. What? Of facultative. Facultative means a choice. There's a choice. If they are interested, they can come in that association. And if they are not interested, they can live independently. That is correctly called proto-cooperation. That word is not in our NCERT book. So it is proto-cooperation. It is facultative mutualism. Okay. The second one is obligatory mutualism, in which both should live in that association. Then only they can survive. They can live only that association. That is the typical example, lichens. Okay. Organisms breed only once in their lifetime. Example, Pacific salmon, bamboo. Then they will reproduce at the end of their life. Immediately they will die. Most of the grasses are like that. Our cereal plants, bamboo. See, for 40 years, they will not be making flowers. Then they will accumulate all their energy throughout these 40 years and flower at the end. Then they die. So they will produce a large number of seeds at their end and then die. Such a mechanism is called semelpari. That word is again not in our book. That's why I am introducing it for you. So semelpari. Whereas there are other organisms which will be reproducing several times before they die, every year or during every season in a year. So for example, take our coconut tree. They are continuously producing young ones. And take mango, they will be producing. Mango will be reproducing once in every year. So they are reproducing every year repeatedly in any season. It is called Ethiopari. So semelpari and Ethiopari. Coming to the next question. Predators also help in maintaining species diversity. See, in our book, the significance of predators in a population. What is the significance? One, predators are one which will be responsible for transferring of energy from prey. So it is a mechanism of, it is a channel through which energy is flowing. It is a conduit of energy. And second one is that it is responsible for maintaining the prey population in control. Without a predator, the prey population will be growing out of control. We have studied in the case of the cactus population grown in Australia. That has to be controlled by a natural enemy, a moth. So when the moth was introduced, the cactus problem was vanished. So a predator is responsible for maintaining the prey population in size. That's how nature is controlling the different populations. Natural equilibrium is maintained. Also, predator is also helping in maintaining species diversity. That was studied by Robert P. Payne. While he was studying on the intertidal areas of Atlantic coast, Robert P. Payne was studying on pink starfishes, which is a very potent predator, which was feeding on all types of invertebrates, especially the Mytilus californiana. Okay, that was its favorite food item. Robert P. Payne was studying on Ocraceus, Pisaster ocraceus. He started his experiment. See, it is because of this Pisaster that the prey population may be damaging, decreasing. This is our concept. Because of the predator which are eating away its prey population is diminishing. To see what is its effect on a population, he selected a large area and removed all the Pisasters of that region. and started what is actually happening for the prey population in that area, and found that he conducted his experiment in 1960, and for 10 years he continued his experiment, found that in the first year itself, almost 10 invertebrate species were completely eliminated. We expected that the invertebrate population, the prey population will be increasing, but contrary to that assumption, what he observed is that 10 invertebrate species were completely eliminated from that area. Because when there is a predator, the different prey populations, A, B, C, okay, they will be competing with their predator and will be developing technique to survive the predator. So they are all competing with the predator, developing so many techniques to survive, and are all successfully living. But in absence of a predator, the A, B, and C competed among themselves, and in that competition, they became extinct. Okay, so because of a predator, the prey population were surviving. When the predator was removed, the prey population completely became extinct. That is why he came to the conclusion that a predator is responsible for maintaining the species diversity. Okay, when the pistachio starfish was removed, more than 10 species of invertebrates became extinct within a year. That is the observation made by the great man scientist, namely Robert P. Payne. American lakes visiting flamingos. That's a clear case of competition. Fishes and flamingos are competing for their common food, zooplankton. Balanus dominates the intertidal area and exclude. That is the experiment of Cornell. Okay, elegant experiment of Joseph Cornell. Competition release. 5 closely related species of warblers. That is the observation made by MacArthur, the Canadian-born American ornithologist, resource partitioning, and abundant tortoise in Galapagos Island became extinct. A clear case of exclusion. When goats were introduced into Galapagos Island, both of them are herbivores, they competed, and the more elegant mammalian variety, namely the goat, excluded the lowly organized, slow-moving, the native Galapagos abundant tortoises. So they were completely extinct. It is a clear case of competition exclusion. Is that clear? So answer is apple. Which one of the following is a matching pair of certain organisms and the kind of association? Sucker and suckerfish. What is that suckerfish? Suckerfish is having its first dorsal fin modified as a sucking organ by which it gets attached to larger fish. It is a slow fish. So it gets attached to whales or sharks, which are all very fast movers. They are great swimmers, so they get a free ride. So shark is getting no benefit. At the same time, suckerfish, echinus, echinus. This is echinus. Suckerfish is echinus. Echinus is the urchin. This is echinus. So you should be familiar with these words. One is getting benefit and the other is neither benefited nor harmed. So it is commensalism. Algal and fungi in lichens, it is mutualism or symbiosis. Orchids growing on trees, orchid alone is getting benefit, trees are not getting any benefit. So it is epiphytes, which is typical example for commensalism. Cuscuta daughter plant living as stem parasite. It is not epiphytism. Epiphytes are commensalism. One is getting benefit. Cattle, egret and grazing cattle. See, cattle, egret are getting the insects flushed out by the grazing cattle. So only cattle is getting the egrets are getting the benefit. Grazing cattle is not at all getting. It is a clear case of commensalism. Clear? So facultative or facultative mutualism or proto-cooperation. Okay. When we are getting, both of them are getting benefit, then only we will be having this type of association. Here, cattle egret and grazing cattle. Grazing cattle is not getting any benefit. Okay. Only cattle egret is. When they come in association, as is the case of, I told you, cattle and crow on their back, feeding on their ectoparasites. Then both of them are getting benefit. That's a clear case of proto-cooperation. Okay. So these are all the different types of associations. Cattle egret is typical example for commensalism and not proto-cooperation. Okay, don't jump into such conclusions. Resource partitioning. What is resource partitioning? 5 different varieties of warblers that will occur when resources are aplenty. All of them are living in the same ficus tree and are all having different foraging habits and timing, so that they are all resourcing. The resources are shared, resource sharing. 5 closely related species of warblers living on the same tree. They avoid competition and live successfully. That is a typical example for resource partitioning. The finding by Robert MacArthur. Species competing for the same resource cannot coexist indefinitely. A clear example is abundant tortoise and goat. Herbivores and plants appear to be more adversely affected by, because they cannot move, plants cannot move. So they have to develop some techniques to avoid being predated. When resources are limiting, the competitive superior will be eventually eliminating the other species. Okay, that is abundant tortoise. Totally unrelated species could also compete for the same resource. Flamingos and fishes in the pond, they are all competing for the same food, namely the zooplankton. So resource partitioning is happened. Robert MacArthur is experiment. A population growing in a habitat with limited resources are limiting, that is natural populations, shows 4 phases of growth. They will be having a sigmoid curve, and that sigmoid curve, that is world host pearl logistic growth. They will be having lag phase initially, where the growth is very, very minimal. Okay, then they pick up, the population slightly start increasing, that is acceleration, and their growth is now at the maximum speed, log phase. Then they will be coming to a deceleration, slowing down that pace of growth and reach a stable population, that is asymptote. So they show a sigmoid curve or logistic growth pattern. Okay, so that is the order: lag phase, acceleration, log, deceleration, and asymptote. So here there is now log phase. There should be also a log phase, lag phase, acceleration, log, deceleration, and asymptote. That is the correct order of events. Okay. Among the red, brown, and green algae that inhabit the sea, see what is happening in sea or in deep lakes. The water will be scattering the light rays, which are all of smaller wavelength. So the smallest wavelengths are for blue and green. These waves will be easily be scattered, so they cannot penetrate to the deeper ones. And who will be penetrating deeper ones? Those which are having the longest wavelength. They are not easily scattered. So the red, they will be reaching the great depths. So red algae, because of the red color pigment absorb the blue light which disperse. So that part then other lights that reach the deep ocean. Only red rays will be having maximum wavelength, so they will be having more penetrating capacity. They will not be easily be scattered. Okay, so they will be reaching great depths, and red algae can occupy the deeper ones, whereas blue should be occupying the top, then green like that. They should occupy the top levels because these rays are not having high penetrating capacities. They become easily be scattered because of the lower wavelength. Average temperature on land varies depending upon two conditions, latitude and altitude. As we go from the mean sea level to high altitude, there is a lapse rate. What is lapse rate? The temperature become reduced to 6.5 degrees for every 1,000 meters. That is why hill resorts are having lower temperature. We prefer to live in such areas in high altitudes because of this phenomenon. Lapse rate is 6.5 degree lower for every 1,000. So if you go to a high altitude which is 1,000 meter above the mean sea level, the temperature there will be 6.5 degrees lower than what is recorded in the mean sea level. So if you go to 2,000 meters, 3,000 meters, accordingly the temperature goes on decreasing. This is why we are having ice caps in high altitudes. Okay. Then second one is the latitude. In 0 degree latitude, that is in equator, temperature will be very high. And 23 degree north and south, that will be Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer, that will be the tropical area where it is high temperature, equatorial temperature. Okay, equatorial climate. Then beyond that, you have the subtropical up to 60, and beyond that 60, it is polar. So decreasing progressively from equator towards poles. Temperature goes on decreasing from plain to the mountain tops. Okay, so these are the two important factors, latitude and altitude. Match the following. What is Pacific salmon fish? Pacific salmon fish, they will be showing migration. They will be migrating. How they will be migrating? They migrate from sea, come to, it is Pacific salmon fish, to fresh waters. Okay, then they spawn and then die. They reproduce only once in their life. It is showing semel-pari, breed only once in their lifetime. What is NT, N0, ERT, which population will be having it? Population which are all growing when all the conditions are favorable. Jacar population. Oysters. Oysters and small fishes are producing large number of small sized eggs. They use R strategy. Large number of small sized. Okay. And what is d1 by dt is equal to R n into k minus n by k, which are all growing in a sigmoid pattern. Natural populations are all. That is world host world logistical growth. Okay. So you can easily come to that answer because Pacific salmon is showing semel-pari, breeding only once. So A is 2. There is only one option where A is 2. So immediately we can answer. Competition is best defined as process in which, see, competition can be observed even when the resources are plenty. Don't think that competition will be occurring only between related species. Totally unrelated species are also compete, flamingos and fishes too. Even when the resources are plenty, for competition, resources need not be limiting. Even when the resources are abundant, there can be competition. That will reduce the biotic potential R value of the other. That is called interference competition. When the presence of another population reduces the R value of a population, then it is called interference competition. So that will be lowering the R value measured in terms of R value, intrinsic rate of natural increase. That is actually called competition. Because of the presence of another one, the fitness, that is the most important value. Even Darwin has understood the importance of R value measured in terms of R. Okay, fitness of one species is reduced. R value is the ability to intrinsic rate of natural increase, R value. Small b minus small d, ability to increase the population. When population is increasing at its maximum, then it is comfortable. It is most comfortable. When the R value is reduced, it is not comfortable. That is the value we are taking into account, okay, to show whether a population is comfortable or uncomfortable. One which is not an adaptation of plants living in marshy areas, in saline rich conditions. Leaves roll during dry weather. When it is summer, the leaves are rolling, especially for grasses living in tropical. So it is for tropical grasses, not for marshy. They will be storing proline and sorbitol. Algae which are all growing will be having a protein, proline and sorbitol, not glucose, that are organic solutes often found in these plants. That's the correct one for osmoregulation. They will be exhibiting vivipary. The plants will be germinating. Okay, the seeds germinate before they get separated, and only after germination they will fall, get separated. So it is viviparity. Possess many plants which are living in such marshy places are having. So mangroves, which are all especially seen in mangroves, shows this viviparity. Possess negative geotrophic vertical roots. So some of the roots are growing vertically up, and they will be coming above the water level, and they will be having lenticels, breathing pneumatophores for taking oxygen directly from atmosphere. So some roots which are all growing negatively geotropic, growing vertically upward. Okay, so these are all adaptations for living in marshy places, but not for A. A is for plants which are all, or grasses which are growing in tropical areas. Next question. A large variety of marine invertebrates and fishes live at great depth. How they are all capable of living at great depth? Remember, as you grow to great depths, the pressure is increasing. How they are all capable of? Presence of excess amino acids in the tissue, presence of special enzyme, trimethylamine oxidase enzyme that will convert the ammonia to trimethylamine oxide. What is the advantage of trimethylamine oxide? The trimethylamine oxide will resist the great pressure. So nitrogen-based materials are converted into TMAO. That is a characteristic feature of teleost fishes, bony fishes living in great depths. Okay, make protein stable. Presence of specialized body fluid which can withstand high pressure. They will make their internal pressure higher than that of the surrounding pressure. So the surrounding pressure will not be having any influence because their internal pressure is so high, making their pressure slightly higher than that of the surrounding pressure. So all are adaptations for living in great depths to withstand high pressure in that great depth, whereas the apple is an exception. So all except apple are adaptation for living in such great depths. The palatable viceroy butterfly mimics unpalatable toxic monarch butterfly. See, there are a number of adaptations by which the predators are trying to get their food easily, and prey populations are trying to outwit their predators. Okay, mimicry is one such mechanism. They may have matching coloration, warning coloration, and this is a typical case of mimicry. In mimicry, you are having a model that is mimicked by an animal which is called mimic. There are two types of mimicry, Batesian and Mullerian. In Batesian, only the model will be having the defense mechanism. The mimic is escaping, being caught by its predator only by its external appearance. Okay, only by its mimic appearance. No such defense mechanism is available. A classical example for this one is the monarch and the viceroy butterfly. Monarch and viceroy butterfly are looking almost same. In the first glance, they will be exactly same in appearance, coloration, etc. And monarch is unpalatable. No bird will be eating. Bird is a predator. Butterfly is eaten by the bird. But this monarch is not eaten by a bird. It is highly unpalatable. Why? Because it is having toxic chemicals that make them highly unpalatable. This butterfly, well, it was a larva during its developing stages, accumulate toxic chemicals by feeding on different types of weeds and make their body unpalatable. So it is having a defense mechanism. Body is unpalatable, having toxic chemicals accumulated. Whereas a viceroy butterfly, it is having no such toxic chemical. It is a palatable one, but no bird will eat because it is cheating the predator by mimicking a monarch butterfly. Both of them are having the same appearance. This is called Batesian. No defense mechanism for the mimic. Model is having the defense mechanism, and this is mimicked by this one. I will give you one more example. The deadly poisonous Bengarus ceruleus crate is mimicked by a small non-poisonous Lycodon olicus wool snake. Wool snake is a non-poisonous, but it resembles the deadly poisonous crate. Crate is a very deadly poisonous, 3 times more venomous than that of cobra. Wolf is having no poisonous apparatus, whereas crate is having poison apparatus. Okay, it is poisonous. But it mimics the crate so that we come to believe that it is a crate. So no other animal will be coming and eating and handling this wolf snake. Whereas in Mullerian mimicry, both are having the same defense mechanism. For example, the monarch butterfly, which is having the defense mechanism, toxic chemical, is mimicked by the queen's butterfly, which is also having the toxic mechanism and appearance. So the bird will not eat any of them because both of them are having similar mechanism of defense and also similar in appearance. It is mimicking. So the toxic chemical is present, defense mechanism is present in both members. Such a type of mimicry is called Mullerian mimicry, shown by the monarch butterfly and queen's butterfly. Both are having the same defense mechanism, same appearance and defense mechanism. So we are having Batesian mimicry and Mullerian mimicry. In palatable, viceroy butterfly mimics the unpalatable toxic monarch. Okay. It is monarch which is toxic, unpalatable, and it shows Batesian mimicry, whereas monarch and queens are showing the Mullerian mimicry. Camouflage. Camouflage means matching or concealing coloration. A typical example is our frog. Once this frog is sitting on the grasses, he cannot identify it easily. Arantia is yet another one. Leaf grasshopper. Nobody can detect it easily. Okay, Arantia. Aggressive mimicry, very warning. aggressive. It is showing aggressive mimicry and competition. Secondary metabolites such as nicotine, strychnine, caffeine. These are all chemicals that are accumulated by the plants. See, in the first question I had told you that plants are in a very dangerous situation. They cannot escape. They cannot run away from a advancing predator. So they will be developing certain techniques to avoid being eaten away by a predator. How? They may be having some thorns, spines, etc. that are morphological adaptations so that they will not be eaten by. Sometimes they may be having chemicals like strychnine, nicotine, caffeine, etc. The typical example is that of Calotropis. This Calotropis is never eaten by any grasses. Why? Because Calotropis is having cardiacidic glycosides that will affect their heart functioning. So they become dead once they are eating these Calotropis. So they avoid being predated. They are having a defense mechanism against predators. These chemicals are all produced as a defense mechanism against predators. Okay, not as growth or effective reproduction or nutritive value. Which of the following is not an attribute of population, but it is not a population activity or population property? Natality, birth rate, mortality, death rate, sex ratio. These are all properties of a population, attributes of population, but not species interaction. Species interaction is between two different species. Okay. What is the difference between population and community? Population is a number of individuals of the same species, whereas community is made up of different types of populations. It is at the third level. Organism is the first level, then population second level, community and biome at the fourth level. These are the four levels of organization in ecology. So species interaction is a property of different species community. Match the trophic levels. Actually, this should come in the next chapter, namely the ecosystems. So no problem. Grasses are getting their energy directly from plants and they are all the producers. They occupy the first trophic level. Herbivores, which are on the second trophic level, they feed on directly the plants. Primary carnivores are feeding on these herbivores. They are on the third trophic level, and secondary consumers. Whereas the last trophic level, fourth trophic level, is constituted by the secondary carnivores, which are the tertiary consumers. Okay, this is how energy is flowing in an ecosystem. So, fourth trophic level, who should be in this one? We know that grasses are plants. They are occupying the first trophic level. That's the clue. So, C should be 4. C should be 4. Only there is one option. So, immediately, even if you don't know, even if you are all confused with the other options, this will be helping you in arriving at the correct answer. So, C4. So, fourth trophic level here, fourth trophic level is who? The vultures, the top carnivores. Okay. Second trophic level, who will be in the second trophic level? Always the herbivores, here the rabbit. Okay. And who is in the third trophic level? Third trophic level is secondary or primary carnivores. They are the crow. Okay. So we'll be having the correct answer. This is the flow chain, energy chain or the energy flow. Which of the following interactions both partners are adversely affected? Both should be adversely, negatively. Competition. Mutualism, both are benefited. In predation, one is benefited. In parasitism also, the parasite is benefited. The host is harmed. In predator, the prey is getting harmed and the predator is getting benefit. So both are adversely affected in competition. Because for both them, there is negative effect. R value become reduced because of the presence of another one. Which of the following is correct for our selected species? What is our strategy? They are producing large number of small sized offsprings. So large number of progeny with small size. In our book, it is given. We are having the typical example are oysters and small sized fishes. So any organism which are producing large number of organisms, which are all small sized young ones. So with small size, large number of progeny with small size. Small number of progeny with large size, they show K strategy, birds and mammals, advanced animals. They show K strategy. Okay. Then, if plus sign is assigned to the beneficial interaction and negative to detrimental and 0 sign to the neutral organism, when the population interaction which is represented only by positive, so both population should be positive, positive, who will be having this mutualism when both of them are benefited. In commensalism, only one is getting benefit, the other one is neither benefited nor not harmed. In parasitism, only one is getting benefit. In amensalism, it is one which is getting harm, the other one is neither, it is neutral. So it is amensalism. So both are getting positive, it is for mutualism. Principle of competitive exclusion that was arrived at by the experiments on the paramecium by Georgy Gauss, a Russian scientist, based upon his experiments on laboratory experiments on paramecium aurelia and paramecium chordatum. The superior aurelium was surviving and chordatum was completely trounced. MacArthur, he developed the principle of resource partitioning, Wolfhoust and Pearl, sigmoid car, logistic car, Darwin, evolutionary theory, and C.F. Gauss developed the principle of competitive exclusion. Mycorrhiza. It is the symbiotic association of fungi with the roots of higher plants. Okay, so it is mutualism. But is fungistasis, the term which is not in our book. It was developed by Dobbs and Hinson in 1953. It is the widespread occurrence of inhibition of germination of fungal spores or growth of fungal hyphae in soil. Though the spores are all present, they are not allowed to grow. That is called fungistasis. And amensalism, as I told you, a relation where the Chinese walnut trees are preventing the growth of other plants near it because it produces a chemical that will be spreading to the soil through the roots. And antibiosis is an extreme condition it is an extreme condition where the other organisms are destroyed. It's a case where one will be, say for example, fungus. Fungus is producing a chemical called antibiotics, which is killing the microbes, other microbes. Fungus is getting no benefit, whereas they are all getting damaged. So it is a typical example for amensalism. Okay, antibiosis is against life, and mutualism is one where both of them are benefited. So mycorrhiza is a typical example for mutualism. Okay. Asymptote. In sigmoid curve, we reach the maximum, that is called asymptote. Okay, where the population has stabilized. Now the biotic potential and environmental resistance has become equal. K is equal to N. K is the carrying capacity. It has reached the carrying capacity. That is the density of population is N. See, value of R approaches 0. What is R? Biotic potential. Biotic potential is not 0. Biotic potential is the inherent ability that is almost equal to environmental resistance. Environmental resistance. R is equal to environmental resistance. And all of these are wrong. So N is population size and K is the carrying capacity. When maximum, that is the carrying capacity, that is the density. Okay. This is the carrying capacity. That is the density. This is the density of population which is reaching the carrying capacity. So K is equal to N. And here this is the time. Density versus time is plotted and we reach a sigmoid curve. Natality. What is natality? Refer to birth rate. B. Death rate is D. Small b is per capita birth rate. Small d is per capita death rate. Number of individuals leaving a habit, going out, that is emigration, E. Number of individuals entering a habitat, immigration, I. So these are the four factors which are all playing an important role in changing the density of a population. And under normal conditions, B and D are the normal factors that will be influencing a population, and only in exceptional conditions, E and I will be having a role in population density variations. Okay. Which of the following population interactions is widely used in medicinal science? I have told you earlier, antibiotics. Antibiotics is a typical example for antibiosis. Bacteria are all destroyed by the fungus. They produce the antibiotics. So, antibiotics produced by fungi or other microbes, that is having no benefit of their own, but they are harmful against other microbes. So, it is negative. It is a typical example for amensalism. Antibiosis is a typical, severe case of amensalism. And in a growing population in a country, population is growing means we are having pre-reproductive much more than that of reproductive. So in the near future, pre-reproductive children will be growing to the population. Growing in the population, they reach the reproductive stage and start producing. So population is poised for a growth. So pre-reproductive individuals are more than the reproductive individuals. Okay, that is the answer. Reproductive and pre-reproductive individuals are equal. That means the population is stable. In this condition, the population is almost stable. It is characteristic of a developed country. Okay, reproductive individuals are less. Reproductive individuals are less than the post-reproductive. Reproductive is less than. Okay, in post-reproductive, that means we are having a population. Reproductive is less than the post-reproductive. It is an old population. Population going to a decline. Pre-reproductive individuals are less than. Pre-reproductive are less than the reproductive. Again, the population is going to a decline. An inverted pyramid is obtained. It is characteristic of some developed country. Now they are all facing a population crush. The opposite of population expansion or population explosion is population crush. And coming to the last question of this chapter, you are having saprophytes, parasites, lichens, mycorrhiza. So, who are all saprophytes? Saprophytes are symbiotic association of fungi with plant root. No, it is mycorrhiza. So, D should be A. Decomposition of dead organisms. Yes, that is correct. So, A should be 2. Immediately we eliminated the others. We can arrive at this answer. Now, the competition is between these two, who are all parasites. See, parasites are living on living plants or animals. 3. Now you came to the answer. What are lichens? Lichens are the typical association between algae and fungi, mutualistic association. So it is 4. And what is mycorrhiza? Symbiotic association of fungi with plant roots. Okay. So these are all the questions from the earlier Neet examinations. Okay, and now we are coming to the conclusion of this discussion of this chapter. Now you understand that both population growth as well as the interactions, animal interactions or population interactions are very, very important because we discussed a large number of questions from these two sets. Okay. So you understood what are the thrust areas which you have to study very importantly, okay, from this chapter. And with that, I conclude my discussion of this chapter, and we will meet with another set of questions from the last chapter, that is ecosystem, next time. Until then, goodbye. See you all. Thank you very much.